Hello guys and welcome to the channel. This is Rule. In today's video I want to talk about the balance batch preview for April 15th. Usually I leave this to the release and I talk about what changed and how it affected the class or my builds at least. But this time I felt like I want to talk about it early because the changes to the bits, how they interact with specific traits that will be added to the game. So let's check the spirit of the batch in general, what it changed in general, and then specifically about Ranger. So this batch will be generally tuning. It's not really a big thing. Will flip around your entire builds or change them completely. Nothing of that will happen. It's just tuning and functionality changes. It just to gather feedback as a preview, and then we will see what will come to the game and what will actually be removed. Most of the things they change will actually come to the game, but some they remove a thing or two. People don't really like it. Like for example, in this batch, Spectre Grasp rewards the distance to 600 instead of 1200, and I have to admit this skill is a bit crazy. It will gather targets from everywhere around you, and with a very large distance and have a very small hand you can see, and if you have low settings you don't really see it all the time to react to it enough, but a lot of people actually don't like this change, and I feel 600 is a bit small for a ball. Like you really have to be stuck around with your enemy like very close. It's not really great. Now the second idea, they want to bring the weaker classes in PvE up to the competitors, like to be around with the same others usually favored by people. And in World vs. World, they want to lower boon application, specifically quickness. They say, unlike alacrity, they want quickness to happen, but they want it to be more intentional application. So the crazy quickness application exists in some traits that you can keep giving your allies quickness or yourself repeatedly, or just because it's there. They want to change it. So some skills will be removed or changed from other boons, and other will be just lowering durations and stuff like that. For example, for Catalyst, you have the Deployed Sphere that you can do in the lightning field, like the air one, will now give Fury instead of Quickness in World vs. World, while Spectacular Sphere trait will give Quickness instead of Fury. So now you get the initial Quickness, but you don't get the balls in Quickness that happened for this field. And for Firebrand, they reduced the quickness from Stalwart Speed. The cooldown, they increased it for 14 instead of 7, and the initial quickness is 1.5 seconds instead of 1. And for Mesmer, they reduced the quickness that comes with the trait Seize the Moment, also for the number respectively in World vs. World only. And in Warrior, again, Martial Cadence, this trait now grants stability instead of quickness in World vs. World. So this is the general thoughts of the batch, and every class have some little bit of changes. I will add the notes in the description or the link in the comments that you can check for yourself. But I'm very interested around Ranger. So there is a quite new style of changes here. So they are changing some Ranger traits in order to give a specific interaction with some unique bit families. So this trait for this trait for this, stuff like that. In different trait lines, actually. These traits will all have a specific effect with a specific family, and then have a generic effect for Ranger in general. So you can still run them without actually taking the specific bit, or that would be crazy. Those traits would be horrible. So they're actually given an effect to the Ranger, but it can be better if you run this specific bit to interact with it. Also will not make it to the beast mode. You will not get this effect on your Soulbeast, obviously. So it's only a bit interaction. However, this is for a start, double-edged sword. For a new player that really don't know how to choose the best bit, or what's the best damage, or for survivability, or what the skill he need, or interact with himself, it's only gonna put them on the right direction. Because if you take in this trait, it's mostly for conditions, so take a condition bit. If you take in this trait, it's for power bits, then you can take that. If you take in a trait that helps with support, then those bits are probably better. But it's a core game style, and generally only in the core game bits. So a new player might take this guidance. If you run this trait, you take one of those bits like it's fixed, and ignore some expansion bits if he already has the expansion. So not really looking deep into this, but at least it's a good direction to go for. That's why I say it's a double-edged sword. It not knowing what the best build to choose, but at least know what to look for at least. So first, the Spear got nerfed in PvE because they buffed it, or over buffed it, I guess, in the last batch and made the most powerful build, like DPS for raids and stuff, with a Spear Hammer. So now they lower it a bit. I don't really care about Spear, even competitive, the stealth is great, obviously. It's what really carries this toolkit. However, I don't like how it feels, I don't like how to really play it. And it's a power weapon, and I don't usually play power at all, so I don't care for Spear, and I don't play it whether in PvE or in combat. But here you know, now it's gonna be lowered. How much lowered? Like we're gonna use another weapon, I'm not sure. That's for the group content or the instant game and play people, and I usually don't play that, I'm more interested in open world. Now let's go with the really meaty changes, the ones that the main thing. So, starting with the trait Stoneform. This trait will now grant Might and Fury when activating a signet, in addition to its previous effect, while there is a new trait added, Wolf Song, and will replace Brutal Seal. In Marksmanship, will make K9, like the wolves and the dog, bit skills, additionally inflict vulnerability, and reveal enemies struck. Deal increased damage to vulnerable enemies. So those traits will work together. Let's see in the game how that happens. So in the trait line Marksmanship, you have this lesser Signet of Stone, and you will get it once you use an elite skill. You will get 5 seconds of Signet of Stone, which means take no damage from power attacks. And you used to have this one, Brutal Seal. When you use any Signet, you will give Might and Fury to allies around you. So if you run them together and use an elite skill, you will have both the effects. And if you run any other Signet, you will get the effect of the Might and Fury if you ever use it. So it goes something like that. I cast this one, and as you can see, I get the Might and Fury, and I get Signet of Stone. I cast this one, I get more Might and more Fury. Now those two have been combined here, so this trait is been buffed. If you run it alone, you will still get the same effect. While this one's been replaced with the new one, the trait Wolf Song. And Wolf Song will make a K9 bit to actually apply vulnerability on enemies that it hit, and it will give you more damage on vulnerability and will reveal enemies hit, which is very decent because this is addition for competitive play. Ranger, the only way you can reveal enemies is running Sikkim. So Sikkim Soulbeasts have always been a big thing in actually doing damage and sniping people while you still have the reveal effect on them and can't run away. And from 2000 radius, it's great. All you have to do is have a target and it will land on them. Doesn't matter what's between both of you, they are revealed instantly. But now you have another choice. And K9, like wolves for example, can have skills like that. 600 radius. Once it uses it, everything around it got hit. And that goes for many of them, like the dog itself. As you can see, they immobilize. As you can see, Zephyr from this one, 600 radius. And since it will reveal enemies hit, that means it can be already in stealth around you, and simply because 600 radius land on them, they didn't dodge it, they will get revealed out of stealth, which is something even Sikkim couldn't do. Because the enemy had to be marked. The only way to get them out of Sikkim is just the timing applies the reveal while they apply the stealth. So it's a decent thing to have in general, and no one was probably running Brutal Seal anyway. Because it competes with Farsighted and it competed with Moment of Clarity. So if you have a single target build like a Spear Untamed Rumor for World vs. World, most of the time you'd run Moment of Clarity if you run the straight line. And if you're running a heavy hitter like a Sikkim Soulbeast, you'd run something like Farsighted because it works on range weapon like the projectile from Longbow. And it got buffed recently actually. So this one had no use. You're usually not running even Signet, and even if you run them, who cares about 3 stacks of Might or whatever? You have other sources of Fury, and the Might was not this valuable. So this change is great, because even if you're not running a K9, you will still get extra damage on vulnerable foes. Most likely it will be applied like it's done for other classes when you get an extra half on the vulnerability stack, which means a total of 12.5 on the maximum stack of 25 vulnerability, which compete with this one for a total of 15 if you are above the range threshold, but only for projectile weapon. While this one, once the vulnerability is there, you do the damage. So it really can be enticing to use in PvE also, if you play a build that can stack up the vulnerability so fast and simply do more damage. If they apply this trait and actually as a fixed thing, if the enemy have vulnerability do this much damage, which I doubt that it will come this way, it will be up to the number, obviously. And run it with K9 in PvE. I'm not sure that's the greatest choice, but some people might do it. It's have decent damage, but have high toughness, so it can tank a little bit for you, even if it have a little bit low health. So the change in general is decent. Even this trait is now, you can look at it for some builds, whether in silly builds for PvE or even for competitive. It's a very strong thing to be able to have Saint of Stone without wasting a utility choice for it, and simply having an extra might and fury from this trait, not just for survivability too. So this is a good change in general, if you ask my opinion. Now, second change, Fang and Claw. This trait will replace Spotter, this time in skirmishing. And for feline, like the cats, and birds, and drakes, they all gain additional critical chance and critical damage. So it's like precision and fury. And the trait will grant fury to nearby allies when you use a beast skill. So how does this trait work right now in the game? This one, Spotter, it will give 3 seconds of fury. I have boon duration actually, that's why you see more than 4 seconds. Every 10-second interval, so once every 10 seconds, people will get fury. Just like that, you have to be in combat and people around you in 600 radius will get this effect. It will be changed on beast ability, and beast abilities have different cooldown, like 30 seconds, 20 seconds, depending on traits that can lower the cooldown. So it's really not locked in a way. So I hope it's not 3 seconds, like it used to be 10-second interval, which mean consistently you can get at least or at most 6 seconds every 10 seconds if you have 100% boon duration from this trait alone, and you can compensate with other things like Warhorn. And right now, you're going to be applying it on a very larger cooldown depending on your build. So I hope it's more than 3 seconds this time. Now, the second part of it that will give critical chance and critical damage for feline, birds, and drakes. So if you look to cats, for example, as you can see, they already have 62% critical chance, and if you give them constant fury, it's more than 100%. Like it's everything is critical at this point. So the same thing goes for birds in general. It's 62, and you give them fury again. But this change will be effective for Drake. Even so, every one of those families will get more critical damage, so more than 150. So it will increase the damage of those bits. Will make them the better choice, or will increase the DPS in general as a choice? I mean, that's really up to the build. And if that damage enough to compete actually with the second trades, that will give flat power for you and your bit, and additional force sword and might if you dodge. This one is for condition, so if you play condition, obviously you're stuck here. But if you play power, you used to take that for higher damage. If this one give more, might be decent, especially if you play in kind of a boon DPS and still run this straight. So you can help a little bit with the fury and now with the extra damage. So maybe you don't need to choose the extra power, and the damage of your bit will carry you a little bit more. So you can help with the fury like the actual support, unless there is support actually running this trait. Especially with a bit like as a white tiger that can give Aegis. Now that takes us for the most interesting one, for me at least, which is arachnophobia. This trait replaces taste for danger in wilderness survival. For spider and devourer auto attack, it will now inflict torment. Additionally to what is already do, you and your bit gain expertise. So if this one have the same application of fury or better, will be great. If not, it will be kind of a nerf to the trait functionality, even so it adds something new. So if you don't use the unique bit, the trait generally is nerfed. The same thing happened for this one, but not if they actually give us the note, so it already nerfed. Because it used to give us 120 vitality, and according to them, the vitality is simply gone, and I don't know why. You could have just kept the vitality. And it's 1200 health, as you can see here, my health. And it's already giving you and your bit expertise. As you can see, if I remove it, it's 0 for my bit. And if you put a bit with a really high health, like this one, as you can see, it will give them 23%. Like the turtle, even so it doesn't have condition. However, it will give Devourer and Spider Torment on the auto attack. So like this one, all those spiders and all those Devourers. So spiders have high health but low toughness, which makes them not really an optimal bit for open world for me, and they are not optimal for most of any content. However, Devourers will make a decent choice because they have one of the highest toughness exists in a bit, and they can have decent damage too, or application in general. They have some very minor CC for a single target, and they have an evade and create distance on themselves. They are range bits. So there was a batch like 2013 that made Devourer very strong because they increased the damage of their auto attack, and they added this bleed on the auto attack instead of a chance of 15% of poison. So it really made them more powerful. However, it came back on it and nerfed it again like very shortly after. So if you look at Wind Dart here on the wiki, reduce the bar coefficient hit from 0.25 to 15 in PvE only, and that was few months after the change in 2013, increase the bar coefficient from to this one and changing the poison chance, and immediately went back on the bar coefficient thing, but kept the bleeding instead of the chance for poison that used to exist. So Devourer could make actually a decent choice, and it goes for either the Carrion Devourer or the Lash Tail. This one was a projectile like a fan, goes through enemies, not really great. So the Beast ability here is 30 seconds and will give you 6 bolts of poison on a field that lasts for 5 seconds. So it's a combo field, it's a cleave, can be thrown from 900 range, it's great. And this one only 20 seconds, but hit only single target for 6 hits, applying bleed and power damage hits. The single one, the Lash Tail, do a little bit more damage actually, but the other one will help you with the cleave, and it is one of 2 bits in the entire game that they can use fields to apply your own damage. This one, the Carrion Devourer and the Morello. So I have Virality Sigil and I have Signet Stone. So if I hit a defined by enemy, it will get vulnerability and it will get also the Sharpened Stone effect. But Lash Tail Devourer, once it use it, it's like my own skill. It applies my hits, as you can see here, and give me the effect of aristocracy, which is quite great. And only 2 bits in the game can do that. This one and the Morello. This bear, which it's poison field. So could it use Jacaranda? For all the bits we talked about, even other things, even in power play, like going with Spotter or going with other choices, Jacaranda have been quite stable for me since Bass of Fire. Because it's very tanky, it can heal herself for a significant number, like entire heal skill. A total of 7,000, it's close to 7,000 with regeneration and healing and condition cleanse. It cleave with some significant damage on 10-second cooldown absolute targets, and it have a decent root that will help even apply other things like the vulnerability stacks from this skill will trigger aristocracy. It's mandatory if you play condition druid because it's the only bit that its own immobilize will trigger blood moon with this thing. So it's very, very good. Even so, Arianet have nerfed it sadly and lowered its health from 39,000 it used to be to 26 only. It still have high toughness, it's still tank for you, it's great. So for I don't know, 7 years, it was the main bit for damage in PvE, and other choices changed for tanking. And once Turtle came, Turtle became the main thing. I will never change Turtle. So since Turtle is never gone away, I have to change Jacaranda for the Devourer. That really depends first on does the Devourer will do more damage than Jacaranda, and even then will I enjoy using the Devourer. So the problem with Devourer, it's a range bit, so it will not keep following you around and just throw itself as a danger to tank for you. You're gonna have, for Untamed for example, you're gonna have to keep bolting it on the enemy or at least micromanage it more. The knockback, you don't want it to ever use it on a non-defined bar enemy because it will still move a single target away from you, and the dodge will take it away from the enemy, and it's a range bit, so it will start fighting from there. So you don't want an autocast, and this one is very valuable. It's on a 30-second cooldown. You don't want it to hit against a single enemy. You're gonna get with 2 hits. So unless we're talking about soloing champion and stuff like that, or already grouping enemies to use, you won't be casting much of any skill on an autocast. You're gonna have to control them yourself, and you're gonna have to almost actively get used to keeping your bit around you enough with its skill to be tanky and easily cleaving around you, or it's simply not a tanky bit to begin with. Those are not really problems in a solo situation like for champion or legendary when you really need your bit to tank for you. However, the survivability cannot be compared to Jacaranda. And the damage right now is a bit less, it's like 1k less. Especially for this one, it's the other one have tiny more damage, even so it's on a single target, so that's also another problem. It's not really optimal compared to Jacaranda because it doesn't have cleave. So if I have to choose one, it will be this one. However, the cleave on a 30-second cooldown instead of 10 compared to Jacaranda. So unless the auto attack is very good with this torment stacking, I'm not sure I would still be changing Jacaranda for this. So all what I have from this batch will be for my main untamed is a nerf because they removed the vitality for no reason. But like I said, it's only when the batch is out I will really test this and give it a chance and see if I would use the Devourer or keep Jacaranda. For competitive style, would that make a condition ranger actually go for this trait? For a start, it depends on your build, but most the build I play, I would go for less Amari terrain. The defensive style and the lockdown style that this skill offer is just way beyond a tiny bit more damage. The fact that you can heal and people get stuck behind you or crippled or slow even to not be able to chase you, or you can lock them down while trying to burst them just by immobilizing through a heal. And the fact it's also a survival skill, so it's a condition cleanse, it will still give you fury if you need it. It's just very good to actually apply and have. But for PvE, this is a good choice. And if you don't run the trait to begin with in competitive, then this will not get you to really care about Devourer or Spiders. However, could you choose it actually for the change to apply more damage through using your bit? Again, I don't think that's really a convincing thing. And I don't think the torment will be this much of a damage actually to look deeper into this. So no, I don't think something will change my use of Child of Earth. And even if you use the trait, there's other bits that can do much more than simply a tiny bit more damage, like I already use Iboga for the ball. Maybe you can use B, especially with Soulbeast. So there is multiple choices that depend on what is the build bit itself, not simply its damage. This is a PvE mentality. So when the batch release, I will look deeper into it and I will see if I will ever change Jacaranda to a Devourer or I will stick to Jacaranda and ignore this change. Now for another trait, Allied Aid. This trait now causes Moabit Beast skill to apply barrier to nearby allies in addition to its previous effect. So this one, once you start reviving someone, the bit will come and help you and revive your ally much faster. So it will still keep and retain the same functionality, but if you use it now with a Moabit, the Beast ability, like this one for example, we will use it for the protection. It will give barrier to. So whatever you run, the days one, the chill one, anything, it will, or the fury. A lot of people used to use the fury too. It will simply give even barrier as a style for defense. So for support builds that run this for revive, like for raids or whatever, or strike missions, I guess it's a good choice. They already run Moa sometime for support, like for the fury, and now they will choose it also for the barrier, which is a decent choice if you ask me. It's a simple buff to the trait. And lastly, Beastly Warden. This trait now grant Orosine and Borosine bits increased health and strike damage in addition to its previous effect. So for bears and bigs, basically, they will have increased strike damage. So flat modifier for their power damage and for their health. So bears in general are the tankiest thing in this game. As you can see, 52k health with 2200 toughness. The only thing come to this level is also the turtle, but they have even higher healing power for some reason. Whatever they can do, like their bite ability heals them and stuff like that. So they are the tankiest choice. They are simply very weak in come to damage, but very tanky and hard to kill. They even have skills like Defy Pain when they don't take power damage hits to begin with, which I think is a very old skill that need to be both condition and power, because it existed when the game condition was simply effects, not serious damage in the game. But now even enemies and mobs keep doing some serious condition damage, so I think this skill need to be adjusted. Anyway, now they will increase their health and their damage, so at least it might make them a little bit usable. And this is a trait. It exists in Beast Mastery. It's this one, Beastly Warden, and it gives taunt on Beast ability. So once they cast this skill, if they have this, they will do a taunt around them, as you can see this, and it happened right after the cast itself. So it's a really good CC. However, if you're running this, you're focusing on your bit. As you can see, you give it more stats. So they wanted with the idea you're trying to tank with your bit. So it's a good choice to have it on those bits. If you want a full tank, you can go with a bear. If you want something that actually have damage, you can go with a pig. With its CC and decent damage in general and its weird insertion skills, as you can see. However, for just damage, who would actually let go of wound access? It will give you frosty no matter what, even if you don't run access. You and your bit get more frosty, so even your bit apply more damage with the ferocity. So maybe if you run a bit that doesn't really hit this much and doesn't have this much critical chance, you would still choose it. But otherwise, I think this is the obvious trait in PvE. In competitive modes, if you run Epic in a Soulbeast build with this trait, if you run it for the stills or whatever skills that any of them have, then maybe it's decent because even merging with it in Soulbeast will still give you some decent damage. It used to be very popular at some point in the game because of the very strong hits with Sikkim and still have a leap with a 3-second knockdown and with many choices on the unflinching fortitude or the impact or the healing. So there is builds that can actually utilize this concept because you want the taunt anyway. It's minor changes. I don't think they change this much when it comes to bits in general. They simply make unusable some of the unusable bits or weaker choices that you take for specific reasons a little bit better in case you actually want to run them. I will be looking deeper into this at least for my builds, and I will be seeing what I can do. The simple change for my Untamed, I might change Jacaranda to Carrion Devourer, as that for the Celestial Untamed. For my Power Untamed, I might change Jacaranda to a Drake, because they are a bit tanky and they can already have some advantage when you give them the higher critical chance from the new trait, because they already 70% even with the Fury, so they can increase more and increase their damage, and they are very tanky. They're just like Jacaranda with even better health. So if they have more damage than Jacaranda, maybe I would look into them with my Power Untamed. For my Druid build, I would not change anything because Jacaranda is mandatory. It's a part of your DPS because it's apply Blood Moon trait with its own immobilize. It's the only bit that can do that. And that's it. We will see once it's released on February 15, and share your thoughts in the comments. Tell me what you think. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll be seeing you next time. Peace.